This video is going to be a bit of a rambling video simply because I had a very, very exhausting day and it is already way too late. Also, I brought gum. So yeah. Anyway, today was kind of exhausting because I had a lot of stuff to do for uni, so university, I don't know if uni exists in English, I think so though. But yeah, I had a lot of stuff to do and I thought, if I don't know what to talk about, because, well, I didn't really have time to prepare, I'm just gonna read you one of the things that I wrote today. Ooh, this is rather spicy. Okay, better now, better now. Anyway, I thought we'd just read a few of the things that I wrote today, which is a open book recap. So we were allowed to look into our textbooks, even though I don't have one, but we were allowed to look things up, basically. And we were to recap what we had learned so far. And yeah, it's about pragmatics, which is a form of linguistics, or it's a field of study in linguistics. As you might know, I'm studying English, or linguistics as we call it in Germany, so English basically. And yeah, I'm just gonna read you a few things. And I'm not sure if we should try a third one, but this might need a bit of breathing before I can get that one. So, let me set up for the first thing. Just as a side note, pragmatics is a field of study in which the topic is the meaning of what I say. So, linguistics, of course, a big field, but pragmatics studies the meaning of words and the meaning of sentences, or, as they call it, utterances. Utterances. Basically, whatever I utter is the field of study, and then what message I want to convey. And whenever I say something, I have certain implications. That's not the correct term, but there are entailments, and these entailments. Let me give you an example, and that makes things easier. For example, I tell you, I drank the glass of water. Okay, so you now know that I drank the glass of water, but what this entails is that the glass of water was, before I drank it, full and is now empty, or it was fuller and is now emptier, or now empty because I drank it. That is an entailment. Because the sentence or the utterance I utter towards you, the listener, entails this. So it is logical that now the glass is empty and was full before, and you now know that because of my sentence. You don't think about that, but subconsciously you think about it and you know, okay, now the glass is empty and it was full before, if you didn't know that. similar but isn't, is a presupposition. And basically, a presupposition is very similar to an entailment, but it is something that I assume that you know before I say my sentence. For example, when I say the glass is no longer full, I expect you to know that the glass was before that full, okay? That's nothing that I say with my sentence, even though it kind of sounds like it. But if I say the glass is no longer full, you already knew that the glass was empty, was full, or I expected you to know that the glass was full, okay? Perfect. Now, let's go to the second task, because that was obviously only the beginning. So the second task was about an interrogation, okay? So there were two people. It's some interrogation from a series or a book, I'm not quite sure, but there were two people, MV and MM, and they were interrogating LM, and the question was, how is the presupposition, or are presuppositions used in the interrogation? Because that's something that happens when people are interrogated. The police goes into the interrogation already confident, or posing as if they were confident that he is definitely the one they found him. So what happened was, LM is some friend of a cousin of someone who got murdered. I have no idea, but the two police officers interrogated him and asked him questions, and they asked stuff like, okay, how do you know him? And how did it come that did you want to go and I think burgle, wasn't burglary, go into cars, steal cars or something. How did it come that you wanted to go and steal cars? Okay, so your task was only to drag out the body and stuff like that. So they already know, or they act as if they already know that he is in fact the murderer. And yeah, and if you just go over the interview, this isn't really explained that well, but I hope you understand it still. If you go over the interview, it looks very much like he's just saying no to the allegations, and he's never really denying their statements in a whole, because if I ask you, okay, so your job was only to drag the body away, right? Then you can't, if you say yes and no, you can't, if you say no, then you're still guilty. Because then obviously your job was not only to drag the body away, but something else. And that's what the text kind of entailed, what the text was about, and the task was about, to kind of show that. And there's something similar that we had in school, actually, where we used to go to people and ask them, okay, well, tell them, okay, I'll ask you a question, and you can only answer with yes or no, only with yes or no, with yes or no. And they'd say, okay, and you'd ask them, okay, so are you ashamed that you peed your pants? And really that was it. And that's the same concept. You already assume that he peed his pants. Just ask him, okay, are you ashamed, yes or no? And in the interview, the guy only answered with no, everything. And that kind of doesn't work against these questions. And that's why he looked very guilty in the interview. Okay, next up you got a deixis. is the usage of certain words. For example, here, yesterday, I, you. These are deictic expressions, and you'll understand why in a minute. And they are deictic expressions because they only work in context, and they exist to use these words in context. For example, when I say, I like you, the sentence doesn't make sense at all if nobody knows who said it. Okay? And if I say, yesterday I had tea, the sentence is absolutely useless, because if I just write it down and there's nothing else, nobody knows when yesterday was. Yeah, so basically you need the context to understand deictic expressions. And there's a bunch of different forms of deictic expressions. My little brother is a bit loud at the moment. Maybe he shuts down real quick. Perfect. There's a bunch of deictic expressions. There are local, I think it's local, like there, here. There's a time, not the right word, but there's deictic expressions of time, which are yesterday, tomorrow, today. Then there's the pronouns I, you, he, she, it. And there's also two more, definitely. One is social, and one other that I can't really remember right now, but social deictic expressions are, for example, please, or anything like the usage of names too. For example, if I say Mr. something, or if I just call you by your first name, that is a deictic expression because it kind of, in context, makes sense why I would do that, and without context, it's kind of, it's not really useful, you know. And a big difference between German and English is that in German we have two forms of you. So if I want to say I like you, I can say ich mag dich, which is a informal version of you, and I can also say ich mag sie, which is a very formal version. So if I say ich mag sie, then it's okay. Now let me say it different. You usually talk, if you meet someone who's not like maybe younger than you, like a child or teenagers, they talk to each other with do, with you. When you get older, and you're not friends with people immediately like you were when you were kids. You start with the polite Sie. That's also why when you learn German, you usually learn it with the polite form with Sie, and everywhere. Just you is just Sie most of the time. So anyway, once you get to know a person better, you ask them if you can say du, if you can say the informal version, which kind of makes you not really friends, but like that's getting on a other level. It's a very German concept, I think. But yeah, you ask them if you can get on the do, and then they say yes or they say no. I mean, if you say no, you kind of decline very politely because you don't want to offend the other person, because they kind of just said, okay, hey, I'd like to kind of get from this too polite or like very polite level to a bit more informal level, please. So yeah, but yeah, that's the one difference between German and English. And in German, of course, it's much more like it's much more difficult to learn German because this see and do thing has to kind of try it out, and that's a huge difference in the social deictic expressions in German and English, because in German you have this one factor more that you can either say sie or you can either say du. Yeah, anyway. We only got to question 3, but my camera's running out of battery, and yeah, I'm already out of time. this soon, then hope you remember me and hope you have a good night. I hope I'll see you again tomorrow for hopefully a better planned video, and good night.